All right, JB Ricks, ringside at the game tonight. And JB, we looked at what happened with Carolina tonight. They didn't make shots in that second half, essentially, and that's what it boils down to. You heard Roy Williams talking about how Duke just kind of kicked their butt in the second half. That essentially is the best way to sum it up.
And that's basically what we said earlier in the program as far as it being a tale of two halves, because in the first half, Carolina was straight balling. They looked like the more experienced team. They looked like the more talented team, but Duke definitely has more talent on paper, but that's not going to win you a game. That's not going to win you a championship. That's not even going to get you second place in the ACC. And in the second half, that's where Duke turned it around. I want to talk about one unsung hero who I think will be key for Carolina's run through March as they begin the defense of that national championship. Cam Johnson has been a key addition to this team, the grad transfer from Pitt. He definitely does an excellent job of spreading the floor and being more aggressive with his game. In that first half, he showed no fear. He was just out there. He clearly had the green light. I don't know if it was his birthday or something like that or whatever, but he clearly had the green light to stroke whenever he wanted to, whenever he got the ball, and there was no fear every time he got it and then threw one up. He went on ahead and shot that bad boy, and most of them went in, but in the second half, he definitely cooled off. He was the only one in double figures, I believe, in that first half, but once things cooled off in the second half and Marvin Bagley III came through and took it over, there was not much else that they could do. Another key player that I want to bring up on Duke's side, Trayvon Duval. He looked like he had something to prove out there tonight. You know, he's lost his starting position for a few games down the stretch here, but he looked like down the stretch of this particular game that he wanted to assert himself as one of the best point guards in this conference, even though he has had his struggles. He had some nice assists down to Bagley. He made a huge three-pointer that also helped in that 9-0 run in the second half. So both of these teams, you know, they don't go in with all the momentum in the world heading into March Madness. Carolina losing 2 straight and Duke losing earlier this week at Virginia Tech. But these teams, both of these teams, can still do work once we get deep into the tournament. Mike?
Yeah, you mentioned Trayvon Duval, 7 points, but they were big points for Duke in that stretch. You mentioned Carolina losing back-to-back games now. Is it? I think you and I are on the same page. I don't think it's necessarily panic time for Carolina because they're going to go to Brooklyn. They're going to play well. You know they're going to play well and probably make the semifinals. But is there cause for concern in anything that Roy Williams is doing with his club right now?
At this point, no. I think it's too late for anybody to hit the panic button because it's go time now. We are in March. Carolina finished the season strong outside of that bad first half performance against Miami earlier this week for their senior night, and their bad second half performance against Duke. Those are 2 bad halves, and obviously those are going to cost you regular season games, and they know they can't play that way once they get into the NCAA tournament because they know it'll be one and done. Too late to panic at this point. Carolina is seasoned. Carolina is experienced. They have veterans on this team. They know how to win big games. They know how to win national championships. Joel Berry, Theo Pinson are clear factors of that. No need to panic at this point, but I would want Carolina, if I'm a Carolina fan, I want at least 2 wins in Brooklyn, at least 2.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely within their reach next week. Looking at Duke, now they obviously have righted the ship. They right the ship tonight after losing to Virginia Tech. Too early to start pumping your tires about being the team to beat in the conference because you know Virginia's out there at 17-1 against ACC competition this year.
No sleeping on Virginia, man. I'm sorry. They're legit, especially with that comeback win they had over Louisville the other night, man. Do not sleep on these Cavaliers. I know that they have this reputation of getting into the tournament, and when it gets to those big games, Sweet 16, they always seem to kind of falter at that stretch. I think that Virginia team, no concerns about that team at all. As far as Duke, they had a nice winning streak up until that loss at Virginia Tech where they just kind of faltered down the stretch and didn't make the plays they needed to win that game. Otherwise, they'd be going into the ACC tournament with like an 8-9 game winning streak, something like that or whatever, and they'd be considered the hottest team going into that tournament. And I've said it from the beginning of the season, and I will continue to say it right now. Duke is one of the top 3 talented teams on paper in the country. They have the talent to win a national championship. Nothing has made me change my mind frame on that. but they still need to do some growing. And you know what? They did some of that tonight, avenging that loss to Carolina and showing that they can win on a big stage like this.
Bigger shocker to you in this game tonight, JB. I'm going to throw some numbers at you. Duke shoots 45% from the field, 36% from three-point range. Carolina shoots 37% from the field, 25% from three-point range. Carolina from the foul line, 80%. Duke from the foul line, 45%, and they win by 10.
I mean,
exactly. That's the correct
response.
Right there.
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
Exactly. I don't even know what to say to that. They missed 10 free throws in the first half. They were down by 10 points. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. Free throws are a huge factor in all of these games, whether it be November, December, January, February, or March. You better make your free throws, and this is D1 basketball. They're free. Make the free throws.
Right. Exactly right. I mean, there are numbers that defy logic, but really the second half is where Duke took this game over, making threes, getting in. You know, Bagley, I named him Marvin Beasley III on Twitter because he was just beasting all over the place with the dunks and the interior moves, making the jump shots. I mean, doing all kinds of work.
Yes.
So, JB, we'll check back in with you here in just a little bit. We're going to take another timeout before we get Mike Krzyzewski on the podium.